might want to fill in a little bit
All
about.
right, whatever. We're no rush. We're
Sort
just...
of, yeah. Four things. We've talked a little bit about our involvement in music, and I just wanted to review that again briefly in the sense that I guess music for me really started in the church, and it started in the choir, as I said, at our church, and it went on from there. And also in junior high school, I decided, since I had to play an instrument, that I wanted to play the flute. I was going to play something that was easy to carry. I was never good at that, even though I took lessons. I never liked it that much. It was never that good, although I was good enough to play in the band and in high school. But once I left high school, I left that behind. In high school, I also, my mother, my parents really arranged for voice lessons for me. So I learned a little bit better about how to sing, and that stood me in good stead. And there was one summer, I think probably my junior year in high school, when I actually went to church camp for a week, and they put on a musical. One of the camp counselors, I think, was a young music teacher. So that ended up actually in me playing a role in the music theater. I'm a terrible actor, but it was fun, and I can actually remember the key song from that now, and I even wrote the words down last week when I had it going through my head, and it was all about a prince and princess, or at least a bit like that. So that music, that's what set me up then for college and so on. So it was partially religion based, but I'm not a religious person, and I was struggling with that all the way through. I mean, as a kid, I was sent to Bible school. I remember Wednesdays after school, I had to go to a church, and I didn't like it. But I went, and it never really made that much sense to me, talking about spirits and gods and things, and I couldn't see them, and they didn't make sense. And then at the church camp, we were all supposed to feel the spirit and be moved. I couldn't feel the spirit. I wasn't moved, and but I was still involved in going to church every Sunday because I was singing in the choir, and that was the same through college. So I really said, I really believe more in science, I believe more in biology and mathematics and physics and chemistry than I do in some ethereal being having control of things, and I could never see that. So once I left college, I essentially left any religious involvement because I wasn't seeing anywhere at that point. So now I consider myself a secular humanist, if I'm anything, and that sort of defines it. Along the way, during all of this, in junior high school, besides taking up the flute, I was involved in shop, and that's where I learned leather carving, actually, which is quite an unusual thing. I don't know that any of that's available anymore. I just have no idea. But in shop, one of the things they taught was leather carving. So I did a piece, and the shop teacher liked it a lot, and he actually took it and me to the principal to show him. So that helped say, maybe I can do this. So I was able to talk my mother into gradually assembling some tools at home and getting some leather. And so particularly in high school and college, I did some leather carving, belts, and you've seen holsters, handbags, check holders, things like that. Once I left high school. There wasn't much time for that, so I didn't do much after that. I've done some, but not a whole lot. But it really taught me, I guess, that I can be good with my hands, and I can be meticulous about things and approach them very directly. And that sort of played through in my honors project in college, which was a comparison of snake anatomies, which I had to do drawings. So I'm not creative, in the sense that I don't think up designs, or I don't mix colors and that sort of thing. I'm really not creative that way, but I'm a pretty good copier, and maybe craftsman is more like it than, I'm certainly not an artist. And that carried then through into things like building the car, building the Bradley GT. Remember when built that just before we came here, and since it was a VW base, I took it to Sergeant Hack's VW place. Have you heard of Sergeant Hack's? Yeah. He was impressed. He told me he's seen a bunch of them. That's the best one he'd ever seen in terms of the quality and the care of it. So that puts it together for me. And the other thing I just want to mention is my experience with alcohol. It's all part of this. I was a non-drinker until I went into the Peace Corps. So in college, I never wanted to lose control. So I didn't want to get drunk. And of course, in college, for some people, that was one of the things they really wanted to do. So while I was in a fraternity, it was not one of the hard drinking ones. It was rather one that was a bit more intellectual and was more focused actually on civil rights. So I became a member of that fraternity largely because it was Phi Kappa Tau before I got there, but a year or two before I started at Lafayette, the membership had left the national organization when the national organization told them they would not let them pledge Jewish or black brothers. They said, no, then we're going to go local. We went independent. That attracted me, and so I joined them. Later, the national recanted that. This was in the 60s, and the civil rights movement was gaining steam, and they realized the error of their ways, and so before I graduated, we were back as a member of Phi Kappa Tau nationally. So at the same time,